masterminds, two visions of power hidden in the shadows of the internet. One sold freedom as a dream, the other turned ambition into death. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on two of the most dangerous men you've never truly known. Where the world sees heroes, we find hidden crimes. Where history writes victories, we uncover betrayals. At Red Dossier, we follow the shadows, because the truth is never where the light shines. Red Dossier, where shadows speak.
Before we move on to the next part, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening.
Ross, William Ulbricht, and Paul Leroux. Two names that at first glance might sound unfamiliar to the casual observer. Yet for experts in cybercrime and international law enforcement, they represent two of the most striking transformations of organized crime in the digital age. Both men reshaped the underworld in their image, wielding technology as a weapon more potent than any gun or knife, and with consequences that reverberated across continents. Ross Ulbricht, born in Texas, USA, was a physics graduate turned libertarian idealist. In 2011, under the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, he launched Silk Road, an online black market hosted on a Tor network and transacted entirely in Bitcoin. At its peak, Silk Road facilitated transactions totaling over $1.2 billion, with approximately 957,000 registered user accounts. Ulbricht was later convicted of 7 serious charges, including conspiracy to traffic narcotics, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise, earning 2 life sentences plus 40 years without the possibility of parole. Paul Leroux, on the other hand, emerged from a much harsher world. Born in Zimbabwe during a time of political turmoil, Leroux demonstrated an extraordinary talent for computer programming from an early age. He created encryption software and later expanded into online pharmacies selling prescription drugs illegally. His empire, however, quickly metastasized into a sprawling international criminal network involving methamphetamine production, arms trafficking, and contract killings. At its height, Leroux's operations were estimated to generate over $300 million annually. Arrested in 2012, he became a cooperating witness for the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, leading to dozens of arrests. In 2020, he was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison, a sentence many experts criticized as too lenient for a figure connected to at least 7 murders. Professional criminologists often draw a sharp contrast between the two. Ulbricht, for all his crimes, is sometimes framed as a naive idealist, seduced by power, while Leroux is seen as a cold-blooded pragmatist who viewed human life as expendable. One dreamed of building a libertarian utopia beyond government reach. The other built an empire where death was simply another operational cost. Yet both men stand as warnings. They are products not of back alleys and secret handshakes, but of laptops, encrypted servers, and a world that believed anonymity could erase accountability. They did not need gangs roaming the streets or smuggling routes through jungles. They ruled from behind keyboards, proving that in the 21st century, a single individual armed with code and ambition could cause as much havoc as an entire cartel. This leads us to an unsettling question, one that experts still debate. Who is more dangerous? A man with grand ideals but little restraint, or a man with no ideals at all only calculation. In the next part, we will delve deeper into their backgrounds, exploring the choices that led them down these dark paths, the psychological currents that shaped their methods, and the fatal mistakes that ultimately brought their reigns to an end. Ross, William Ulbricht, grew up in Austin, Texas, in a middle-class family that encouraged intellectual curiosity and independence. Described by friends as intelligent yet idealistic, he excelled academically, earning a degree in physics from the University of Texas at Dallas before pursuing a master's in materials science at Pennsylvania State University. Yet it was not science that captivated Ulbricht, it was philosophy, specifically libertarian thought. The idea that individual freedom should trump government control. It was this belief that ultimately led him down a path from bright student to cyber criminal. Paul Col de la Rue's journey was forged in a crucible of instability. Born in southern Rhodesia, modern-day Zimbabwe, he witnessed political upheaval and racial conflict from a young age. Gifted with a razor-sharp intellect, LaRue taught himself programming as a teenager. After moving to South Africa and later to Europe, he developed E4M, a disk encryption software still cited in cybersecurity circles today. But his talents were not confined to legitimate pursuits. By his early 30s, LaRue had transitioned into operating illegal online pharmacies, offering easy access to prescription painkillers across the United States without the need for proper medical consultation. It was a business model built on exploiting loopholes in regulation, but greed drove him further into the shadows. Their methods reflected the differences in their personalities. Ross Ulbricht designed Silk Road as a free market where drugs, false identities, and hacking services were sold, but under a strict moral code he personally enforced. No child pornography, no weapons, and no violent services. Transactions were shielded by the anonymity of the Tor network and the untraceability of Bitcoin. Ulbricht's vision was that of a digital bazaar where commerce existed beyond the reach of state power. Yet paradoxically, to maintain control, he authorized violent solutions, allegedly ordering multiple assassinations, although these charges were ultimately not formally prosecuted in his trial. Paul LaRue, conversely, operated without any such ethical boundaries. His network was expansive, brutal, and highly compartmentalized. He established methamphetamine laboratories in the Philippines, coordinated arms shipments to war-torn regions, and maintained a roster of hitmen on his payroll. In 2012, LaRue's criminal empire spanned at least 10 countries. His orders were enforced with lethal efficiency. Witnesses were eliminated, and dissent was crushed without hesitation. His operations generated hundreds of millions annually, leaving a bloody trail across continents. The psychological profiles of both men, though different in origin, share a chilling intersection: the rationalization of immense harm in pursuit of personal visions. Ulbricht convinced himself that by enabling victimless transactions, he was advancing freedom. LaRue needed no such illusions. For him, people were assets to be used or liabilities to be discarded. The scale of damage they caused was monumental, but different in nature. Silk Road introduced narcotics markets to a global accessible platform, an innovation that outlived its creator. By the time of Ulbricht's arrest, it was estimated that over 100,000 buyers and nearly 4,000 vendors had used Silk Road, facilitating tens of thousands of illegal transactions. It ushered in an era where drugs were just a few clicks away for anyone with basic internet literacy. LaRue's crimes, meanwhile, left literal corpses in their wake. His methamphetamine networks fueled addiction epidemics in Southeast Asia and Australia, and his ordered assassinations resulted in at least 7 confirmed deaths. According to DEA reports, LaRue was directly tied to murders involving former associates and perceived threats, including a real estate agent and 2 Filipino business people. Both men ultimately fell due to critical miscalculations. Ross Ulbricht was arrested in 2013 in a San Francisco public library, caught red-handed while logged into Silk Road's administrative account. Investigators, led by FBI Special Agent Chris Tarbell, pieced together his identity through a series of digital breadcrumbs, including posts under his early alias Altoid that pointed to his real email address. Paul LaRue's downfall came through a classic sting operation. After attempting to arrange a shipment of weapons to Somalia, he was lured into a trap by an undercover DEA agent posing as a buyer. Following his arrest in Liberia and subsequent extradition to the United States, LaRue agreed to cooperate extensively with U.S. authorities, betraying dozens of his former allies to secure a reduced sentence. In terms of cultural impact, Ross Ulbricht became a martyr figure for the libertarian and cryptocurrency movements. His story has been told in books, documentaries, and podcasts, often framing him as a tragic idealist undone by naivety and hubris. Paul LaRue, meanwhile, has been the shadowy inspiration for multiple fictional crime lords in television and literature, representing the new archetype of the cybercriminal kingpin: invisible, remorseless, and global. As we move forward, we will not only examine the final consequences each man faced, but also reflect on the deeper lessons their lives impart about the evolving nature of crime and power in the digital era. For Ross William Ulbricht, the end came swiftly and absolutely. Convicted on February 4th, 2015, after a high-profile federal trial, he received 2 life sentences plus 40 years, with no possibility of parole. The courtroom was packed with journalists, cybersecurity experts, libertarians, and grieving parents whose children had overdosed on drugs purchased through Silk Road. The presiding judge, Catherine Forrest, delivered a stark message: idealism does not absolve responsibility. Ulbricht's vision of freedom, the court ruled, had unleashed forces he could neither control nor comprehend, and the damage to society was profound. Paul LaRue's story concluded differently, yet just as darkly. After cooperating extensively with U.S. authorities, assisting in the capture of arms dealers, money launderers, and cartel leaders, he was sentenced in June 2020 to 25 years in prison. The sentence, significantly lighter than expected for a man linked to at least 7 murders and countless other crimes, provoked outrage among many in the law enforcement community. To some, LaRue was a necessary evil, a devil's bargain. To others, his reduced sentence was a grim testament to the compromises inherent in fighting global crime. In comparing these 2 figures, stark contrasts and eerie parallels emerge. Both operated digital empires beyond national borders. Both weaponized anonymity and encryption to shield their activities. Yet Ross Ulbricht attempted, however naively, to enforce a code of ethics within his domain, banning certain activities he deemed immoral. Paul LaRue imposed no such restrictions. Morality for him was an inconvenience irrelevant to profit. In terms of operational sophistication, Roux outstripped Ulbricht by several magnitudes. While Ulbricht relied on a single website, Roux built an intricate web of shell companies, false identities, and layered command structures designed to obscure his involvement. Where Ulbricht's security mistakes, such as posting personal information under old usernames, led directly to his capture, Roux's downfall required elaborate international stings and betrayals within his own ranks. Measured purely by the scale of harm inflicted, Roux stands as the more dangerous figure. His operations not only fueled drug addictions, but also directly resulted in human deaths, the destabilization of local governments, and the empowerment of militant groups in volatile regions. Yet when it comes to cultural impact, Ulbricht's name resonates louder. Silk Road opened a Pandora's box. It demonstrated that traditional law enforcement tools were woefully inadequate against decentralized, anonymized marketplaces. Today's dark web markets and cybercrime forums owe much of their existence to Ulbricht's original template. Their stories collectively reveal a grim truth about the digital frontier. Technology, once heralded as the great equalizer and liberator, can also serve as the ultimate enabler of criminal enterprise. A single individual, armed with sufficient skill and disregard, can challenge the sovereignty of nations, the integrity of economies, and the safety of countless lives. Both men are cautionary tales. Ulbricht illustrates how noble intentions, unmoored from realism and ethical accountability, can spiral into catastrophe. Roux shows what happens when pure ambition and sociopathy are left unchecked in a borderless world. Their legacies leave us grappling with uncomfortable questions. In a world where a laptop can command armies, forge empires, and extinguish lives from thousands of miles away, who holds the power? And more importantly, who holds the responsibility? Perhaps the more chilling realization is this: Ross Ulbricht and Paul Roux were not anomalies born of unique circumstances. They were logical products of a system designed to reward ingenuity without conscience, vision without restraint. If the digital age could create them, what new monsters might it be breeding even now, unseen in the shadows of the networks we so blindly trust? Their stories are over, but the world they created is still evolving. In a time when a single line of code can command armies and topple empires, who will be the next to rise from the shadows? Thank you for watching Red Dossier. And before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe technology will ultimately save humanity or destroy it faster than any weapon ever could?